Gary knows this better than anyone, but on energy, the notion, as he said, that somehow there remains a fundamental conflict between economic growth and a sound energy policy that deals with our environment and this enormous crisis of climate change. That's old. That's yesterday's news. That's yesterday's politics. If we cap the emission of greenhouse gases, it may cost us on the front end a few cents of electricity as the transition takes place. But what we know is that over time we can create an entire new generation of jobs and industries and businesses and entrepreneurial opportunities in green technology and create the kinds of innovation that we can then export to China and export to India and can drive this economy for years to come. There are no good options in Iraq right now. There are bad options and worse options. And those who suggest that there are simple solutions probably haven't studied it or aren't being honest about it. But as tough as things are in Iraq, it is still possible, I believe, to initiate a phased redeployment, a responsible withdrawal of our combat troops out of Iraq. We can have them out by next year. We can initiate a surge of diplomacy in the region. We can refocus our attention on the very real threat of terrorism that we've seen in London over the last several days. And in the process, we can then go before the world and say, we are back. We are ready to work with you. We want to work with you on transnational threats like terrorism and global warming and pandemic. We want to work with you on the critical issue of nuclear proliferation. We want to work with you to end the genocide in Darfur. We want to work with you to invest in reducing poverty and the incidence of HIV and AIDS and hookworm and malaria in sub-Saharan Africa. And while we're at it, we're going to close Guantanamo. And we're going to restore habeas corpus, because that's how we lead. We lead not just with the might of our military, we lead with the strength of our diplomacy and the power of our alliances, and most importantly, by upholding our ideals and our values. That's the essence of our leadership. It always has been. And that's why the world is disappointed. You don't hear them complaining about China violating human rights, because they don't expect China to uphold human rights. But they do expect it of us. And we should welcome that expectation, because that says something fundamental about who we are.
If you look at the really serious problems that we face, whether it's climate, toxification, the hypoxias, or our own crisis of obesity, or the pesticide crisis, these are choices that were made in the 20th century. And so they're not this president's responsibility, or by the way, the next president's responsibility. They're our responsibility. But these choices all have one thing in common, which is that we need to be more conscious.
Right.
We need to see the connections. We need to recognize that there are direct consequences to the shortcuts that we take.
Right.
And we've lost the sight of that this is, in the Jeffersonian terms, this is we the people. This is us.
Yeah.
And we the people have taken this passive role. We the people have allowed the media to dictate the trends. We the people are not speaking loudly enough, as Obama asked us to do. I sell to millions and millions of consumers. I have yet to meet the consumer who says, no, please sell me the yogurt with more pesticides.
Right.
Please give me the one with a double dose of hormones. Everyone wants to do the right thing for our children, for our bodies, for the future. The only problem is we need it to be convenient, we need it to taste good, we need it to be on our terms. But the point is that we all want to do the right thing. And what Barack is saying is he's saying it's up to all of us as individuals to take responsibility for the kind of world we want. That's the central message. Yeah. It's not about one president solving the oil crisis, one president solving the economic crisis.
It's back to Kennedy. Ask not what your country can do for you.
If you understand the core message, then I think the hope continues. The hope endures. If you don't, then it's easy to take pot shots. The seeds of the oil spill are the same as the seeds of the climate crisis, are the same as the seeds of the toxification of our air, water, and soil. The Gulf of Mexico, well before this oil spill, was already the site of one of the largest dead zones in the world because of the excess amount of chemical fertilizers running off. And that all translates, every one of these issues, while they may seem overwhelming to us,
Right.
as is being the President of the United States an overwhelming concept, every one of them starts with our individual choices. What happened in this country was we went from a government of the oil people to a government elected by everyday folks. And when I say that, I don't mean just the votes. I'm talking about the way the campaign was financed. The average contribution of the Obama campaign was $120 per person.
Engaging people who felt totally disenfranchised, young people, African Americans, who didn't feel like, they were qualified to be part of